The island of Patmos has a special place in my life. In 2008, I took a trip to Greece to go and stay at the Greek Bible Institute. Here's a picture of it. I flew out of Seattle and via London ended up in Athens, Greece. Was picked up by Helen Steele, an administrator at the Greek Bible Institute. They gave me a good deal for a month. So at the end of the second week, Helen came to me and she told me, well, some of the students are going to the Island of Patmos. If you'd like to go along, we'll deduct what you had to pay to the Greek Bible Institute for that week and apply it to the trip. So I'm thinking, well, that sounds good, Island of Patmos. Why not? So we booked a ferry and got the tickets and went to Piraeus, where the ferries take off from the people in Athens. Here's a picture of the ferry. We're all heading out here, getting on board the boat right behind me here. Piraeus.
In the best possible way. The bar of C class remains open 24 hours a day.
The ferry left in the afternoon, arrived at Patmos. I think it was like 3 o'clock at night, dark, everybody was sleeping, and the ferry comes in and lets people off, and we went into the town of Chora. We had a walk there. Here's a picture of the harbor in Patmos during the day. So we went along, and I think there was maybe 15 or 20 people, and we were heading for what's called a domata. It's sort of a small motel-type building with maybe 15 rooms, and we bunked together and so forth. And here's a video of the domata. From the domata, on the front deck, you can see this big building on the top. It's a monastery, and we'll go there in a few slides here. And here's a picture of yours truly at the domata. I haven't changed much, have I? This is the place where we ate out on the veranda, I suppose you would call it, of the domata, looking out on the ocean. A beautiful island. Then, as I mentioned, we went through that little village called Chora, and going to the monastery, Dr. John Giannopoulos of Liberty University took me up to the monastery, making our way through Chora. This is like a maze. John said that they developed this little town because a lot of pirates came to this island, so they made it so they wouldn't be too welcome, be able to find their way around, and hopefully I'll find my way back.
Referred to as a Byzantine maze.
A Byzantine maze. Here they have all these little places you go up, doors. A motor scooter's nice to have. Well, I guess you can't go upstairs, so you wouldn't get too lost. Gotta go up here? All right, we're going up higher, folks. We're going up to the monastery where they're going to celebrate something. Oh, this is it. Doing good, John. Straight up above. Only another 1,000 feet up. I can see it right here. I can see the roof. Right here, where I'm back here, you can see it.
Oh, okay. Let's go.
There it is up there. All right. Just like that. Let's go. When do you think this town was built?
Well, the fort was 1066.
Fort was built in 1066. We're coming up to it. Whew. Next is a short video with John explaining what happened to us when we went to the monastery.
Well, we had the opportunity and the privilege this morning of visiting the monastery here at Patmos, which was founded in 1088 AD, better than almost 1,000 years ago. And we had the privilege of meeting the abbot and some of his staff here. They have some of the oldest manuscripts. They have something in the vicinity of 1,300 manuscripts. And the oldest is the Codex Permian, which is 6th century. Thank you. And they were very gracious. We were introduced to the abbot, and then Charles presented a gift of one of his the Apostolic Bible, which he was very grateful to receive. In fact, he wanted to order some for his students here. He's got 30 students here at the seminary. And he said, but however, he would need the Archbishop Bartholomew's blessings, which of course we can't get at this point. But nonetheless, he left the gift there. We did go in and actually saw the 6th century Codex. And you know, they're only, the oldest surviving manuscripts are really the Sinaiticus, which is their 4th century in Egypt. So this doesn't come far behind that. And it was in leather, in vellum, which they didn't use in those days. So we're here with Helen, Steele, myself, and they also invited Charles to spend the night. So this evening, he'll be, tomorrow he'll be returning here in the morning and staying all through the night. And we'll have an opportunity to get into some of those manuscripts that he so loves. And so we've also been invited for lunch. So I'm bringing my wife along at their suggestion. And so we're pleased. This is really a highlight of our trip.
Now, one of the first things we heard when we got to the monastery was this monk ringing the bell. Now, this monk, as I found out, was a very famous person on the London stage. He had something to do with plays, putting them on in London, and he decided to go into become a monk, into the clergy, I guess you would call it. And he was there, and he took me under his arms, more or less, and helped me along and got me a good deal on a Bible. I'll show you a picture here in a little bit. And he also had the rights to build a little small chapel on Mount Athos, and he was going to go there, and he invited me to go with him and rebuild this small monastery, actually, on Mount Athos that he had the rights to do from the Archbishop of Constantinople. But I didn't go and continued with the Apostolic Bible. What happened when we got there, we went inside the museum. It was actually closed, but John was able to talk the librarian to letting us to go in to see the museum and all the manuscripts. They had a famous manuscript there, Codex Purpurus, the Codex N, and I think they had a leaf there in the museum. I was able to see it. It's a leaf from a gospel of the 4th century. And while we were there talking to the librarian, what you see in the picture, I had an Apostolic Bible with me, and I showed it to him. And he said, well, 1 minute, I'll be back. And so off he went, and we went looking around, the only two in the museum. He came back, and he said that the abbot would like to meet me. So I gave them the Bible, so it's now in a World Heritage Library. And they were very appreciative of this Bible. And he opened the monastery up to whatever I wanted to do. He thought so much of what I had done and the Bible that I had given the monastery. So then John mentions going to lunch. And so I actually spent 2 days at the monastery, or 2 nights, 4 days. And I had my first lunch there with the other monks. And that table that ate on was over 1,000 years old. And the abbot apologized because it was during Lent. If you know what Lent is, it's a time, I think, before Easter, that people cut back on certain things, eating and activities. And he said that they didn't have the normal good food as we normally do, and so I had octopus, among other things. So that was my lunch. And then he asked if there was anything I could do, and I said, well, yes, I'd like to see the Purple Codex. So he said, okay, but first we'll give you a room to go to, and you can put your things there, and then we'll show it to you. And so here's a picture of my room, and there's a picture looking out of the window onto the Aegean Sea, and building on top, I think it was another chapel of sorts. And my room was right next to the bell tower. There's a door going into it. They invited me to come down for a service at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I tried to go down, but every stair is a different size. I didn't have a flashlight or anything. There's no way. So I didn't go. Morning for breakfast, the abbot said he missed me. And I said, well, I tried to go, but I couldn't find my way down. And so he said, well, I'll have somebody help you the next time. So the next night he did. I went down to their liturgical service where they sit there and go through this Greek Orthodox liturgy, sat next to the Archimandrite Antipas, and when it was over, then went back to my room, and then the librarian came and took me down to the old library. Now, the library that the Bible that you saw was a library that scholars can go into and study with the approval of the abbot, and scholars throughout the world will go in there, and they have the books in the library they can use. And basically, you need to be an Orthodox scholar, but I'm not Orthodox. I'm not any denomination, but they saw what I did and appreciated it. And so the librarian took me down, I don't know how many, 30 or 40 stairs going through this maze in the monastery, had come to a big door, oak door, the big knob on it, and put the key in, opened it up, and he walked into this. It was, all these books were rare books. Nobody basically was able to go down into this part of the library. It's very rare that anybody would go down there. They would generally go to the common library by the museum. And so he took me to the end of the library and opened up a file cabinet. Laying there were 32 pages of the Codex N. Here's a picture of the actual page of the Codex, and I was able to pick him up in my hand. And this was within a couple hundred years, written at a couple hundred years after the time of Jesus, 200 or 300 years. It's on purple vellum, a leather that was dyed purple for royalty, so it could very well have been Justinian's copy. And the ink was in silver and gold whenever it had Jesus' name. So I went back up to my room, spent another day, and went back to the Domata. But before going, the abbot gave me a farewell and showed me what they had in their possession. They were selling these Bibles. They were copies, facsimile copies of the Codex N, the Purple Codex. And most of the leaves are in St. Petersburg, Russia, in an Orthodox place there. So the man that rang the bell asked the abbot to give me a good deal on it, so they gave me a really good discount. I bought it, and it's probably 20 pounds heavy. So this is basically what it looks like on my table that I have, a library table for it. and I'm guessing it's probably 2 feet by 1.5 feet, something like that, maybe 4 or 5 inches wide. And when you open up the lid, you see this very elaborate Bible. And here I've taken it out of the box so you can see it, and below is a book and a magnifying glass and a ribbon to help pull it out. And that book has what's in the manuscripts in modern print. You can see it and go through the pages without having to go through that large replica. And there's the inside of the book with the pages photocopied from the Codex Purpuris. Here's a letter that I received from the abbot and the people there at the monastery thanking me. So I'm showing this basically to show that all the things that I'm saying is documented. And the Apostolic Bible, when I was there standing with the abbot, he's asked me if there was anything he could do, and I said, yes, I'd like you to bless the Apostolic Bible for the people of the Orthodox Church, which he did. And when I got back to the States, I sent 5 more Bibles to them, which they appreciated, sent me this letter, and you can read it yourself. But I see where there are other Orthodox Bibles that people talk about, but yet I don't know if any of them have been blessed by an archimandrite. The archimandrite was underneath the Archbishop of Constantinople. I forgot his name at the time. I think John mentioned his name. So I think that the Apostolic Bible has a special place with the Orthodox people, even though it's not sold through their auspices, more or less. So I took that box and put it on a rolling cart and took it back on the ferry going back to Athens, and then to the airport, flew into Seattle, took a train down to Corvallis, Oregon, and then a bus to Newport. And with that Bible, and it sits here right to the left of me on a beautiful library stand. That was my trip to Patmos. Now, one thing I'd like to mention a little in my experience, what I've seen, is that monastery that I went to, they know what they have. They sell a lot of copies, all sorts of things. They make money on the sales to keep the facility going and everything. Now, I have an interest in the Sinaitica manuscript, which John mentioned. But over the many years of translating and checking everything out and figuring it out, the Sinaiticus manuscript was found in St. Catherine's Monastery, which is at the bottom of the Sinai Peninsula. Well, that was not where Moses went up. Moses went up this mountain here, Jebel Sin Bishar. It's the only mountain on the Sinai that actually has the word sin. And in the Greek, it's Sina. It's not Sinai, but Sina. This is like 2,000 feet. It was up close where the wilderness is, which it says when the sons of Israel went there, there was a wilderness by them, which is fairly close, where they would go across the Red Sea into this wilderness to Mount Jebel Sin Bishar. I also wrote an article on my experience on the Sinaiticus manuscript, and a man called Constantine von Tischendorf in the 1850s went to this monastery, and the story goes that he saw these old pages laying in a wastebasket and took them and bought them back, and that was Sinaiticus. And there's no way that these monks would put an uncial capital letter pages of a Bible into a wastebasket. And my article is on things that people have talked about on Sinaiticus, on its legitimacy and so forth. I was able to go into the library and see these things, not being Orthodox. And Tischendorf, I'm not sure, he was from Germany, but I doubt if he was Orthodox. So the whole story with Tischendorf, I question. Yes, he could have been there, but what he purchased and received, how valid it was, you can read the article that I put together, and I'll put the link right here. So the island of Patmos is where it first mentions here in our next verse, and we can go into that next.